ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda in Iraq that grew out of our invasion.
I know some in Washington would like us to start leaving Iraq now. To begin withdrawing before our commanders tell us we're ready would be dangerous for Iraq, for the region, and for the United States. It would mean surrendering the future of Iraq to Al-Qaeda. It'd mean that we'd be risking mass killings on a horrific scale. It would mean we allow the terrorists to establish a safe haven in Iraq to replace the one they lost in Afghanistan. It would mean increasing the probability that American troops would have to return at some later date to confront an enemy that is even more dangerous.
There should be no doubt. Today, America is stronger, and Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. We've decimated Al-Qaeda's leadership.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and bin Laden is dead.
We've decimated Al-Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden.
Al-Qaeda is much weaker than it was when I came into office.
Osama bin Laden is dead, and General Motors is alive.
The war in Afghanistan is coming to a close. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. Osama bin Laden is dead.
Today, the core of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan is on the path to defeat. Two things. One is ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda in Iraq that grew out of our invasion, which is an example of unintended consequences, which is why we should generally aim before we shoot. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. We've decimated Al-Qaeda's leadership.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and bin Laden is dead.
A series of suicide bombings in Saudi Arabia has capped off a string of deadly terror attacks overseas. 3 different cities across Saudi Arabia were rocked by suicide bombs yesterday. The attacks began in Jeddah after a bomber was stopped by security personnel near the U.S. consulate. According to the Saudi Interior Ministry, 2 people were injured. Hours later, a pair of suicide bombers struck near a mosque in Qatif, a ministry source confirmed to NBC News. Shortly after that, a suicide bombing took place in Medina near the headquarters of the Prophet's Mosque, a site considered to be the second holiest in Islam. 4 security officers were killed. Meanwhile, in Iraq, the death toll continues to climb after one of the deadliest bombings to hit Baghdad in more than a decade, and the worst ever there at the hands of ISIS. At least 200 people were killed and another 176 wounded. Authorities say a refrigerator truck filled with explosives blew up around midnight on Saturday as people were celebrating Ramadan. ISIS has also claimed responsibility for the attack in Bangladesh on Friday. Gunmen stormed a restaurant in that country's capital city. The crisis that unfolded left 28 people dead, including 6 attackers and 20 hostages.
You know, John, what we're seeing, I think, is ISIS actually lashing out because against every way we measure this, the territory they control, the number of foreign fighters and fighters overall, the money, the propaganda, they are down against every single measure. And unfortunately, one of the things that they do in response is to lash out with these indiscriminate terrorist attacks, suicide bombers, car bombs, you name it, going back to the more traditional model of terrorism. And it's horrific. And if you have someone willing to blow themselves up, it's awfully difficult. But in a strange way, this is a measure of the success we're having in
ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda. ISIL is Al-Qaeda. ISIL is Al-Qaeda. ISIL is Al-Qaeda. ISIL is a direct outgrowth of Al-Qaeda in Iraq.